Hey everybody, how's it going today? Oh, look at these fall colors. Are they incredible or what? But we know what's coming, don't we? Winter. And you know what? I thought about it, and what I need to do on this video is show you what tools I feel are very important when you're using your outdoor wood stove when it's in the burning time of the year. So I'm gonna go over that with you on this video, and hopefully it helps some people out. But ain't it great? Beautiful views. Okay, we're up here by the old wood stove, and you know what I always do, there's a couple things I do, and I'm going to show you the tools that I think are very important, but I'm also give you a freebie. And when I sold the outdoor wood stoves, you know, I did over 600 units, had a couple installers, and we was moving a lot of furnaces a year. But I always told my customers a few things. One is, you can always tell when the furnace is under a burn or it's shut down by the smoke coming out. And I always try to catch it at that time. But the first thing I do when I come out is, even if it's daylight or if it's dark, but let's say it's daylight, I always turn my lights on. And the reason I turn my lights on, and I told my customers to turn their lights on, is because when you're messing with your furnace, how many of you people have had your furnace boil over or overheat? It's because the door was probably left open. Well, when you're out messing with your furnace, go ahead and turn your lights on, and then that way when you're done with your furnace, you filled it and everything's done, go ahead and shut your lights off. If you go in the house and you're not done with your furnace, let's say you left your door cracked for some reason, and you go in the house, or you get a phone call, or your wife says, hey honey, I need this done, you go and do it, and then when you happen to walk back by, you look up and you see your lights are on. I didn't finish doing what I was supposed to be doing with the wood stove. And a lot of times that's when people boil over their furnace, because they didn't, you know, shut the door. So that is something that I do. That's something I teach. I used to teach my customers to do. Now let's get into some tools. What's some tools we need? Well, obviously you're going to need a shovel to get your ashes out of your furnace. So a square pointed shovel is a must, right? What's another must? Well, another must is basically a hoe. It's just a garden hoe, and let me show you what I do with the garden hoe right here. Okay, the hoe is basically is to scrape and keep your door clean. And I go around the sill of the door and I scrape all the loose creosote off. Top and bottom. And I also, what I do with the hoe is, when I take the ashes out, I'll scrape the sides of my firebox and the other side, and I help to pull my ashes to the front as well. But the hoe is very, very important tool, I feel, for keeping that door frame cleaned up. Let me show you another one that I feel is more important. Have you guys ever seen one of these? Well, it's quite long. It's about 8 foot long, and you know, Central Boiler sold these. And at one time, I had a guy that made them for me on my route, which looked just like this with a flat piece of steel, and he welded re-rod down, and on the top he made it like a hoe, flat. So I had one tool that did two things. But these are very, very important, and let me show you why that is. when you're messing with your wood stove, what you want to do is you always want to stir your ashes and push your ashes around and move them, and then pull stuff back forward. And what's nice about this being so long, I'm away from the smoke. Now, the best thing to do is to catch your furnace when it's been under a burn for a little bit. And we all know that it ain't gonna smoke as much. So every day, I go ahead and stir those ashes. And I know what you're thinking. You're going, well, Kevin, why do I gotta stir them every day? Well, if you think about it, ashes, if you're not stirring them and loosening them up, it does one thing when you stir them and loosen them up. It brings the chunks that are not burnt back up to the top, and your powder will sift down through the bottom, your powder of your ash. So stirring your ashes is gonna use up more of your wood. Instead of when you clean it out, maintain it during the heating season, you don't have a bunch of clinkers and big pieces of wood that are underneath or buried that are not used up. So I stir them, I push them back, and I pull them back forward every day. And the other thing is if we don't stir our ashes, those ashes are going to be sitting and they compact after time from throwing the wood in, and they pack down, and then there's a lot of moisture in our firewood, and then especially if it isn't seasoned, and then what happens is that moisture gets in there, it gets in with the ashes, and when they're sitting against the steel or in the bottom of your furnace, that's when you can get a lot of rot, a lot of rust, and it will eat away at your furnace inside your firebox. And one thing I didn't show is what I'll do also is I will take this on the corners and turn it sideways and go down my corners as well. And like I say, I reach all the way to the back and get that. Now the old girl's going good, and it's got some air going to it. And so those two things. So let's talk about one more thing we need to have when we're dealing with our wood stove as well. Why do you think you need a metal trash can? Well, that is where the square pointed shovel comes in. So the square pointed shovel comes in when we take ashes out, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our lid off. Obviously, after we stir everything, we're gonna go ahead and get our ashes and our powder, and I always shake it, and I try to put just the powder in my trash can. And you know what? I try to stay on that as far as putting it in my trash can for, and leaving it in the trash can for a couple weeks, because you want those coals to be dead. Let's see if she's going. She's really going now. That's why if you can catch your furnace under a burn is the best time to fill it, because you don't get no smoke. Let's go ahead and shut this up. I'm done with it, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut my lights off. But the thing is you wanna leave your coals in a container. I'm in the woods. I have lots of leaves. I'm not gonna put my ashes on the ground, because I'm gonna do an interview with a gentleman that in the early spring, he thought his ashes were dead, and they weren't, and they burnt a couple hundred acres of, burned a couple cabins to the ground. So you gotta contain those ashes for 2 to 3 weeks, so they die, so they're not alive, and the wind can't blow them around. And then after a couple weeks or so, what I do is I go ahead and I'll put them usually on the garden area. I'll put them in a safe spot if I've dug a hole and put them, but you know, you need to be careful with your ashes, that way there's no fires. So things we need is a square pointed shovel, our hoe, and a rake. Those are, like I say, those, I use them all the time. Those are the things that I always told people when they bought the wood stoves. So hopefully this helps you as far as some maintenance on taking care of your furnace. Even if you got a furnace with grates, you want to stir them. Even if you've got augers, you know, stir your ashes. One, to get the most use out of your wood that's not being burnt because of them getting packed down, and a lot of traffic. Not, you know, they're getting packed down and they're not being able to get utilized because they're buried underneath all the ashes. So anyway, hopefully that helps somebody. I appreciate you watching our videos, and if you want to subscribe. But other than that, you guys have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Wow, colors are just absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Nice.